Hey, what's going on guys? Matt Morgan here. Today we're going to be talking about the Leica Q1. Is it a good buy for 2020 going into 2021? I don't know. That's up for you to decide. But I love it. I've only had it for, I would say, 3 months now. But it's basically been on my side every shoot. If you're not familiar, probably not. I do fashion. So I'm basically shooting a lot of people throughout my career. It's never really been about landscapes or street photography. I'm really shooting portraits and shooting, kind of full body fashion, street style type work. You may be saying, is 28 good for that? Is it going to be too wide for portraits? Yes and no. It depends on the type of portrait. If you're just going for a standard headshot, of course, I would say probably don't reach for this if you're just going out to do headshots. But it is a great camera and you can use it for anything. It just depends on how you frame it and how you use the camera. That really determines, what the look of it is. If you start putting people close to the edge of the frame, yeah, you're gonna get some distortion. But if you keep it in close, keep it to the center, really it's not that bad. It goes with me everywhere again. It's basically my second shooter, so I'm still bringing my A7 III. Usually I'm taking the Zeiss 55. That's kind of my well-rounded lens. It's kind of good for everything. You can do headshots, you can get back a little bit, get some full body. And it has enough range where it's a conversational distance where I'm not too far away from my subject. 85 is really great for headshots, of course, but it's a little far away from me. I kind of like being close and quiet. I don't like yelling at people. Kind of a quiet-natured, introverted person anyway. So the last thing I really want to be doing is like yelling across the room for someone to tell them what to do. So I really love this camera. It's actually very quiet. So good for up close, conversational camera. Maybe you're having lunch, you can have some nice photos, you can still grab some food photos. Good for walking around. This is a great everyday camera basically. And the Q1 is, going for a great deal right now. In between $2,200 and $2,700, you can usually find them, especially if you live in a market like I do, where I'm in, Los Angeles. So there's definitely going to be a little more available probably than if you're in a smaller town. They're a little harder to find. And, if you can find them on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, you're going to save on taxes as well. So if you start, ordering on eBay or Amazon, you're going to pay, a pretty good bit extra in taxes, which will kind of bite you in the butt at the end. You're kind of like, oh, it's actually starting to add up, because depending on what state you're in, taxes can really add up. So, but I'm going to really, keep it simple today. I'm not going to go into tech specs. This camera's been out for a while now. If you're trying to, decide between the Q and the Q2, not that video. Just want to, show you about the 28mm lens, how I use it, what I use it for. Basically, when I'm out shooting, this is kind of my full body. Maybe if I want some different type of angles, something a little more, if it's a really, kind of a different model, not like a standard, kind of basic model. Maybe she's a little more, edgy and wants to do some cool stuff, then, I can pull this out immediately and start doing a little more, dynamic angles, maybe some low angles, maybe something a little different, where the distortion really isn't that big of a deal. Otherwise, I have, my other shoulder, the 55, which is great for all around, definitely a great camera for everything. But talking about the Q, I love it. The camera, there's just something about it. There really is. It's, you always say Leica fanboy. Everyone just wants to have a Leica, but when you do shoot with it, you do see the colors, and it really is, it's amazing. It's just so easy to work with and just pops right out of camera. I'm going to edit all my photos to my style anyway, so they're going to be very close. But even when I apply, similar color grade from the Sony to the Leica, they are very different. Some, these definitely favor the reds a little more, so everyone's lips are usually a little more vibrant. Everything's a little more red and punchy, and then versus the Sony, everything's a little more orange and definitely more muted. The RAWs on the D&G RAWs are definitely not very flat. So your Sony, you're going to get a lot flatter image than you are with a Leica, just because you're working with a D&G file. I feel like there's just it feels a little more almost JPEG-ish, versus just a straight, RAW file from any of the other cameras I've used. Every camera pretty much, Canon, Nikon, everything. Fuji had an X100 before this, but so far this camera has really hit home. Even with the price, I paid, I think around $2,500 for it, but I don't regret it. I love it. It'll be very hard to sell right now, unless I was upgrading to a Q2, which right now it's just not I don't need it necessarily. The file sizes, of course, are bigger. This is more manageable. But when you're shooting with this, you're not going out shooting 500 photos anyway. It feels more like a film camera. You know, you're kind of taking your time. You're enjoying the photos. You're only going to get 100 or so, 200. Battery life, no problem. You know, these batteries are $20 on Amazon. If you want to grab a bunch of them, by all means. Battery life isn't a problem at all. I haven't run into a problem. I did tape it up. A lot of, if you've ever seen videos, people say they get dust in the sensors. You want to check if you're buying one. If there's dust in the sensor already, you need to try to see if you can see that. Shoot, like maybe point it at a white wall, take a picture, see if you can see any dust. But you do want to cover these holes if you're going to be outside a lot. One here and one on the front, or excuse me, on the rear near your thumb. I would cover those up just to have a little extra protection from dust and dirt getting into there and kind of getting on your sensors when we don't want. But pretty simple. I just want to keep it basic today. I'm not going to go into the heavy specs. I love mine. Still a great camera. You know, it's not going to focus as fast as a Sony. You're going to have to take your time a little more. It definitely slows down the process, which I very much enjoy. But I want to go ahead and let's talk about some pictures. So I've just got a few pictures together. I don't want to give you too many right now, but I'll start posting more as I go and, you know, show you a different diversity of what the camera is capable of. That's kind of what I want to show you today. A couple different, you know, ranges from just lifestyle beach to a little bit of flash photography, as well as studio. Kind of a couple low angles, and I'll probably throw in a few landscapes as well. At the end, I've kind of been, you know, dabbling in a little bit of landscape, kind of while I'm out on my shoots, just trying to grab a little extra something while I'm there. So let's take a look at the first picture. Beautiful model. We're at the beach. And as you can tell, I keep everything very centered. So I try to keep the subjects in the center of the frame. Everything I do is going to be for Instagram pretty much all the time. You know, maybe a website, but usually it's going to be for Instagram or social media purposes. So you do want to frame your subjects very centered anyway. You don't want them too close to the edges. I plan ahead. When I'm shooting Instagram, I shoot pretty much ready to go right at a camera. So I don't have to, like, you know, try to crop it later and fix it where I didn't leave enough room for 4 or 5 on Instagram. So I do plan ahead for that. You want to leave, it's about a thumb, about a thumb size if you're on your photo before you crop it above their head. That way you have a little extra room just for Instagram. Try to plan ahead. Most people are going to want to post these on social media, so you want to definitely give them a lot of headroom. So if you notice on my pictures, there's a lot of headroom, but that's just basically designed for Instagram, which is great because you're going to put your subject in the center of the frame anyway, so it actually works out really well to really lower the distortion. But she's at the beach, you know, arm over her head, you know, moving her body, but very low distortion again, very nice. Colors looked great, everything looked good, it was focused, everything was tack sharp. Next thing, same exact thing, it's just a girl at the beach. Her head, her body's very centered. You do have a nice sky, we have a little bit of the bottom. Sharp image, great color, right at a camera, beautiful images. Next image, we do have some flash photography. So I bought I forgot what it's called, the QC20, I think. It's a little small flash, like the smallest flash you can get for a camera. I'll put a link below to what it is, but it works fantastic and really made her pop. You know, this is just underneath a bridge, and there just happened to be these black doors there. Looked really cool, so I just thought I'd grab a few shots next to the door. It was actually bright in there, so the flash did overpower a little bit of light as well. It wasn't totally dark. So it did, it came out nice. I liked it. Next shot, similar, it's just kind of a very lifestyle shot, nothing crazy. Just, again, keep the model in the nice center of the frame, really low distortion. You can still get a nice, separation, even with the 28 mil, but it's a 1.7, so you do still get some good separation depending on how far away the background is in the first place. Next image, a little bit lower angle. So we're shooting up on the subject, so you can tell her face maybe, her jaw maybe a little distorted, but other than that, I kept her very centered in the frame. She has a little room on her feet, a little room on the head. And, as long as you keep your subject in the center, it really looks nice. The Leica lens doesn't have that much distortion anyway, but if you do get close, of course you're gonna see it. So again, another simple photo, shooting up, slight distortion, but it kind of looks cool and, trying to make it a little edgier, but without being, of course, over the top. Next photo, same thing. A little lower angle. It's gonna make her legs look a little bit longer than they really are. She's actually not that tall, but again, wanted her legs looking long. We really wanted to show off the boots. That was kind of the goal here. And maybe, you know, it was a hat product shot along with the purse. We have some good color in the background. You know, I shot against this window. It had some nice warm light. And then, you know, with the brick and her boots, everything just kind of popped. It's very fall colors, so we're really going for a fall photo shoot. And again, just kind of a slight low angle, keep her head as close to the center of the frame as you can with just a little bit of the crop at the top. Next photo, in the studio. So these were cropped pretty good bit because when you're shooting 28 millimeters, unless you have a really big background, you're gonna see a lot of it. So there was a lot of background showing here. Just cropped in a little bit to a 4.5. These are already 4.5 cropped. And again, you know, it doesn't look that bad. There's a little distortion, but it kind of looks cool. Gives it a little edge to it, but this was pretty much straight out of camera, no editing. This was the color with the flash, you know, it's gonna be very natural look to it. And then just, again, a little tighter crop. It is a different photo, so it isn't the same one exactly. But yeah, I mean, there's just a slight bit of distortion, but it kind of gives it a little pop, little edge. But you can, you know, I put the, you know, I put it just a simple trigger on the top, works with the Pro Photo. Everything worked great, the lights were amazing. So those were just the basic photos I wanted to go through, and then we'll kind of look at a few landscape photos as well. Again, I've popped the colors a little bit, you know, adjusted the exposure, but I tried not to, you know, adjust it too much where it's just way over the top where you can't really tell what it did look like in the first place. And you know, that's really all I wanted to show you today about the Leica Q. I'm gonna do definitely a lot more shoots. It goes with me every shoot, so I wanna start making more videos. I'm gonna do a lot more behind the scenes of all my shoots because I do a lot of them, so I feel like I'm just wasting time if I'm not showing you guys what I'm doing. I shoot almost every day, so I do have new models every day. I shoot for an agency, so they send me models all the time, so I'm always shooting. Tons of influencers, you know, being in Los Angeles, I can pretty much shoot every day if I really want to. Someone different, but I want to start, you know, giving more behind the scenes with the Sony a7 III as well. I'll shoot both. I'll kind of compare the images. That way you kind of get a feel for 28 versus 55, and you know, I have an 85. We'll play with everything, but you know, I just want to give you an idea of what I've been doing and how we do it, and you can decide what camera is best for you, what focal length, what do you want to do, and then you know, maybe some tutorials on how to shoot models, how to work with agencies. So I really want to just kind of give you a little key insight to everything that I do fashion-wise, and you know, that should be a lot of videos coming up. So I'm really excited. I hope you enjoy them. This was the Q1. You know, it wasn't an in-depth review. I just kind of want to give you a background on what I've been doing and enjoying it. So stay tuned. I'm going to put a lot of videos up. Definitely a lot more now. Working on getting some good content together. That way we have something to do for the holidays and something to watch. So I hope you enjoyed it. This was the Leica Q1. Really just a, you know, not an in-depth review, but just a lifestyle review, I guess, of how I use the camera and how it works with me every day. And maybe it's a good fit for you. A lot of good deals probably coming up through the holidays. The Q1, Q2, they're both great cameras. You know, good luck with your decision. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. And